What can we learn from arranged marriages? I know this topic is controversial, and I brought it deliberately with two main objectives. One objective is that I would like to redefine what you think about arranged marriages. And the second thing is, I would like to propose a more rational way to start a serious relationship in your life. But before I dig deeper into this topic, I would like to tell you my own story. I would like to get some credibility. 11 years ago, I went on a quest to find myself in Singapore. It was a result of a failed relationship, and I thought I need to reflect upon it. So I went to Asia and thought about it. When I came back, I remember I came out of the gate, my brother picked me up, and the scene was, I had a tan, I was wearing shorts, I shaved off my hair, I was in vacation mode. My brother took my suitcase and he walked with me to the car casually. He said to me while he was putting my bag into the trunk, "You know what? We're not going home. We're going somewhere else." I was surprised, but I didn't ask much. When we arrived at the house, I said, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, there's a surprise for you. Our parents are already inside, and there's a girl waiting for you. So you should meet someone." I was really shocked because I was born and raised in Germany, and it was never an option for me to go for arranged marriage. I said to myself, it's not going to harm. I can just go inside, be polite, be friendly, and just go out. When I went inside, I greeted everybody, and then I saw a beautiful young woman sitting there, and our parents said, "Hey, why don't you go on the balcony and have a talk and get to know each other?" I said, "Okay, why not? She looks interesting." So we went on the balcony and asked her a couple of questions. She asked me a couple, and I felt every word she's saying seems perfect. It makes a lot of sense. I never thought there could be a person like this. I was actually quite surprised. 11 years fast forward. This is the same person. That's my wife. And she's here today. You can ask her. You can verify everything I'm saying. We have 2 kids now, and I'm happy. I never could have imagined having a relationship that's so meaningful, so powerful, and so comforting. Now, you could fairly say, "Hey, this guy's lucky," and maybe I am. I surely am. But maybe there's something more to it that is underneath the idea of arranged marriages. Over the last couple of years, in our friend circle, whenever we met people, I met people that had comparable stories. And I started to dig deeper into this concept. Before I go deeper into arranged marriage, I would like to pick you up where I believe some of you may be today. The perception of this idea may be something like this, where force is involved, where people don't have a choice. And this picture specifically is disturbing because for us in this society, having a choice and having the option to say no is as normal as breathing. And while the UN or the common sense condemns this, this still exists. And I'm acknowledging that. It exists. We cannot say it's not there. But it's also not the standard. It's not what is the standard in arranged marriages. And that's one part of my message today. So, especially today, in the time of social media, young people are exposed to awareness, they're exposed to Hollywood also, but also to the choice that every individual has. And this concept is making an impact all over the world. A study from 2013 from Ipsos revealed that if you look at India, people between 18 and 35 74% actually want to have arranged marriages. And as a fact of the matter, 90% are in arranged marriages in India. I found this pretty interesting. But no matter how you start your relationship, as I said, they must be voluntary. Before I met my wife, I had 2 relationships that failed. They lasted for years consecutively. And both individuals were very nice human beings. They were beautiful people, had great ideas, but most importantly, they had good intentions to have a relationship that could have lasted for life. But something was missing. Having a common ground is maybe not enough. There needs to be more to it to make it a relationship that lasts for a lifetime. And after they ended, I took quite some time to process them and to understand why they didn't work out. So what I thought is that marriages need to be extremely robust, but they were not. And the reason for that is that we didn't talk about important life questions initially. And I will come to this in a second, because I would like to compare the concept of love marriage and arranged marriages. What do you think of when you picture that you're meeting someone? What I'm picturing is something like this. Maybe it's a disco, maybe it's a party, maybe it's a company function. It's something where you're relaxed, where you have a good feeling ambience. Maybe you're not in your daily skin. But what you have in common is probably a more flexible mindset. You want to be likable. And the idea is not why, but it's more like, why not? So you challenge yourself, you challenge the odds. And I think what happens is that you often become irrational. It happened to me. And especially in Germany, when you think about it, we plan everything. We plan the smallest project. But in this question, we're happy to do trial and error. And this is one of the most important decisions in our lives. Now what I think about is, when you meet at such an event, what happens is that you take a drink, maybe you meet for dinner, or maybe you eventually go to a movie, and then you start liking each other, and then you start your life. And if you're lucky, you discuss the critical life questions later on. So first you fall in love, and then you discuss the life questions. What are the life questions? I think about the question, do I want to have kids? Where do I want to live? What happens if somebody gets an offer to work from abroad and just move to a different country? What happens if one of the parents falls sick and you want your parent to live with you? That will be surprising to your partner if you haven't talked about it. And I feel that those questions are either discussed later or never. If they're never discussed, it's likely that you will have surprises down the road. The problem is when you are in a relationship for a longer time, your ability to adapt is lower compared to the initial phase. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't explore. I think that's fine. Exploring is important. It's important to understand who you are. And more importantly, it's important to understand how you want your relationship to be, and to also understand how the other person ticks. That's important. But if you think about a serious relationship, you cannot afford to waste time. Let me contrast arranged marriage with love marriage. And before I do that, I would like to share the definition of it. Arranged marriage means that there are 2 entities, 2 people, 2 individuals that are brought together by a connecting element, by a connecting person. It could be your parents, it could be some family friend, or anybody else who knows both people. And this knowing aspect is very important because that person that connects two people needs to make a pre-assessment, a compatibility check. And when the compatibility is given, that person brings together those two people for them to explore if they make sense together. But more importantly, the outcome of that meeting is open. It means that either one or both can decide that this makes sense and we want to explore further, or we don't. And as I said before, there are still communities and parts of the world where this freedom is not there, but the awareness is changing. And the way how I experienced it was that I could have said no, and so could have my wife. I agree, this doesn't look like a very romantic scene. It looks more like an interview. And maybe this is what it is. When I think about arranged marriage, this is what I think about. I think about two people sitting there, talking to each other, and telling each other what they do, what they've been doing, how they picture a relationship, and maybe also what they're afraid of. You're in your daily skin, and you are not afraid to say what you're afraid of. You have a comparatively inflexible mind because you want to make sure that you don't take the wrong decision. The underlying assumption is not, why not? It is only and only why. Why does it make sense that we both try to get into a relationship, try to get into a marriage? And it's really important that no time is wasted. Here, the sequence compared to the other example is the other way around. While in the other example, you fall in love first and you discuss life questions later, maybe, in this thing, it's discussing the life questions first and then trying to find the spark that is important to like the other person. And by the way, this is something that I would like to emphasize also for people from my community. I think that just rationally being able to connect is not enough. I think that's the prerequisite to interact after that and to try to find the chemistry that is important for a person to remain interesting for someone else. See, the idea is people from comparable backgrounds or people from comparable mindsets, values, are less likely to see surprises down the road. There are platforms today where you can create your profile and an algorithm will tell you, you should date this person. That person makes total sense for you. And I've been discussing that with some of my friends. I think this solution also has its flaws because every person creates his or her own profile. I show someone else how I see myself rather than someone else who knows me well proposes that this could be a nice person. See, the selection of my wife, I couldn't have done it better myself. Somebody else actually told me, hey, this makes sense for you, and it did. But nevertheless, even if somebody ticks all the boxes for you, it doesn't mean that your relationship will be perfect, and it's a fairy tale, and nothing can happen to it. Even the perfect soulmates can split. Therefore, you cannot predict the unpredictable, because life itself means that anything could happen today. When you go out this door today, anything could happen to you that changes how you think, how you feel. And we cannot do anything against it. But guys, we can do something about things that are predictable. There are things, if you think about it, when you meet someone, that could mean that two people cannot get on the same common ground. For example, kids. If one person says, I want to have kids desperately, and the other person says no, then that common ground is not existing. Therefore, I'm saying, be brave. and set expectations. Be brutally honest, especially in the initial part of your relationship, if you mean it to be a serious relationship. Do your marriage homework. Because I propose, rather than having an initial phase of romance with a shooting flame, to have a lifetime of happiness with a slow burn. But more importantly, whatever way you choose to start your relationship, may it be an arranged marriage, may it be a love marriage, make sure you don't waste your time. And even more importantly, don't waste anyone else's time. Thank you.